What is up? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day. Back here with some more RE4 Remake gameplay for you. And today I'm doing another comparison between RE4 and RE4 Remake. This time talking about the Novistadors, a very iconic enemy from Resident Evil 4. I want to thank, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Mark Kaboozy826 for this idea, because he left a comment on my video with the Regenerators. And he was talking about doing his own analysis of which of the two is better of the Novistadors from the remake and the original one. Now, I'll be perfectly honest with you, I wasn't intending on doing one on the Novistadors, just because, honestly, I didn't think it was that close for me personally. But reading Mark's notes on how he would do the whole comparisons and the categories, I actually completely agree with him. I actually 100% agree with everything he said. I don't disagree with anything. I completely agree on every single point he made. And it's because of reading this, I realized why I thought this whole thing was more lopsided than it initially is. And it's not as lopsided as I think it is. But the reason why it feels lopsided to me in terms of the comparison is because one of the categories he brings up is so lopsided, it makes it seem like one is clearly better than the other by a mile. And that's what I want to talk about. So, just a little context for you to build up how I'm going to do this and do it only in one category to determine which one I ultimately think is better. I'll leave you with a life analogy here, something everyone can relate to, because it's happened to everybody in life at least once in your life, is what is the most important thing when you're going for a job interview? The most important thing you have to nail. You have to nail the first impression, because first impressions are everything. And first impressions are the difference of you being hired and you not being hired. Because you may have the tools and the skills able to do that job you're applying to, but if you don't have a good first impression, you're never going to be able to give them the opportunity to be able to do that. And that's why the only category I'm going to be talking about is first impressions, because that is where I ultimately believe this whole thing feels so lopsided. I don't think either Novistador is truly that much better than the other, but the first impressions gives that lopsided feel for me personally. It's why when I read the notes of Mark, I'm like, damn, it's a lot closer than I really initially thought when you really compare the two in all their forms, when they're attacking you, how they go about their business. Because that first impression is like the difference. It's basically the difference of going from a 5-star restaurant to a fast food place. And even the fast food place feels insulted to be compared to that, because it's just that bad. And it's that bad for the case of the remake, because the original one is by 25,000 miles superior to the remake. But why? What is so different? So first, we'll analyze the original one, and then we'll go into the remake. So without further ado, let's get into the original one. And what I like about the original one is kind of how it starts. Even before you get to the area where you encounter Novistadors, you get a little hype moment. So when you get on your radio, you see it's been hacked, and it's been hacked by none other than one of the villains, Salazar, which is kind of cool and unique. So you have no more communication from the outside world other than the villains you encounter for the rest of the game. But not only has he jacked your line and he taunts you for how they're going to find Ashley, he gives you some information that he's got some new enemies that are waiting for you in the sewers, and he just tells you that they're insects and they need a little bit of exercise. So I think that's really cool that you have one of the villains hyping up an encounter you're about to have. All you know is that they're insects and they're in the sewer and they're waiting for you, and he seems pretty confident that they are going to be your end, and the only way we're going to see each other again is in the next life. So obviously not the greatest way to start off in terms of going to a new area and encountering a new enemy, but a great way to hype up that enemy. So I definitely do like that part. Obviously, after the call, you proceed to head on towards the sewer. And one of the cool parts I like about this is even before you even see it, they have a really good build-up moment here. The moment and tension keeps building, because as you walk, you suddenly hear running, and running on water, running real fast, and then it just suddenly stops. And doing this for the first time, you're obviously very paranoid. You're looking left and right. You're wondering where these things are going to come down. Every time you cut the corner, you're looking real hard. You're looking deep. You don't see anything. Or did we see anything? Wink, wink. Then you go in here. You see some box, and you go in there and get some supplies. But you're on edge. You're very anxious. You're very wondering where's this thing going to come out of? Why did it just stop like that? And let me ask you all a question. How many of you guys didn't see the thing at the end of the hallway here and just kept walking? I'll be honest, I don't 100% remember my reaction the first time I did it. I don't know if I saw it or not, but even if you knew it was there, you saw it, it's still quite a reaction to see this thing in person, even if it is kind of cloaked or not. Especially if you didn't see it in the end of the hallway and kept moving, because when this thing comes to life, it comes to life, and it looks grotesque. I just like how it has that glowing eyes. The only way you can honestly see it when it's cloaked, how it climbs up and down the walls. It's all over the place trying to grab you. It's not a stationary enemy. And not to mention that music, oh my god, that music. I don't know what it is about the OG Resident Evil 4, but they really nailed the enemy musical themes here, because it's only second to the Regenerator, and that's the greatest compliment I could possibly give, because you know how much I love the Regenerator theme when he sees you, but this theme, when you hear it play, it makes you so paranoid. You're looking all over the place, because especially if you don't know where they're coming from, it makes you all over the place. You're so paranoid. You're firing in spots you think they're there. It's sometimes you can see them, but sometimes it's hard to see them. It's got you completely on edge and completes a very intense environment. As I said, I always like to see people do this for the first time and see just how different this enemy is compared to other things. And also, it's cool when it kind of grabs on you and pours that acid down, especially the fatalities. They're really brutal, but this is an excellent introduction. As I said, it's only second, in my opinion, to the Regenerator. And as I said, that's not a bad second place to be to. I mean, it's like saying you're being second to Michael Jordan. Is that really a bad thing? But damn, this is such a great first impression. So, how did the remake do? Well, yeah, the remake. So, in the remake, after you start this chapter 10, I believe, you go through here and you see some weird structures that don't look like man-made structures. They're all over the place, the side of the pillars. You look at them, you see them. And as you continue walking, some people might have missed it, but it's a lot more obvious here he's kind of right there. And, yep, there's a Novistador. Another one drops down, and, yeah. You have a little comment from Leon here, and he jumps the wall, and then you encounter two more that are flying, and yeah. That's your first impression. I'm gonna be honest, that's horrible. I mean, that's like the equivalent of being a Cowboy fan in the 1990s and being a Cowboy fan in the 21st century. I don't know a more catastrophic drop-off period, because that's just terrible. I mean, holy crap, like how do you justify that? And another thing that doesn't add up really good for it in terms of the remakes hand is the next time you encounter Novistadors in the next room, the big ballroom, it's just non-stop Novistadors everywhere. They just keep throwing non-stop enemies, and it's not really intense as it is just kind of annoying, because they just keep coming from all angles and stuff, and they kind of just piss you off more than really kind of like put you in intense mode, and if that makes any sense. And it kind of doesn't help the fact that you had no build-up for them. You just showed them off, and then there's just like 100 of them in this whole room, seemingly. You kind of got to build up to it. What the original did so well is that they made every single encounter of these guys really intense. How they come out of the ceiling, how they'll still be invisible and cloaked. That's the other thing, is like they're not really cloaked in the beginning encounters of the remake. All of them you could clearly see, they just kind of have the rock blending thing, but that's pretty obvious too for the most part. But here, it's hard to see them sometimes. And as I say, they come out of the ceiling, they sometimes bust open a gate. They can come from any angle, and every encounter complimented with that music, because the music is way superior than the remake here with the Novistadors. It makes every initial encounter intense. Yes, the original one does have its areas where they have a lot of them, but that's only after you've encountered and kind of gotten used to them that they throw all that at you. In the remake, they just throw all of them at you at your initial encounter right from the get-go. So it kind of loses its appeal, and it affects negatively what eventually does happen, because there are good moments with the Novistadors in a remake. For starters, I like how they did the invisible Novistadors, but the problem is it comes way later in the chapter that you kind of already been bugged out by this point. So it's like, imagine you started with your best shot. Because once again, it's that first encounter that I think is very crucial. Because if you give a terrible first encounter, it doesn't make the enemy seem that special. So when you get to the part that truly is special, you're already kind of just worn out by it, like, oh boy, now we got invisible bugs. If you started with this, I feel like it would have been that much better. I hope I made that clear. I think the remake Novistadors are good. They just had a terrible first introduction. Compare that to the original one, it's not even a fair fight. But that is my opinion. I want to hear your guys' opinion. How do you feel about the Novistadors? And you think the first impressions really hurt the remake compared to the original one? Let me know down in the comment section down below. But thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the rest of your day. And I hope to see you all in the next one. Peace.